Hey everyone, this is Todd Latourie from Queensryche.
And they expect like 1 million people.
There's so much music, like just the second half, it's just about twice as thick as the first half.
What an introduction.
Yeah, it's nice to keep it fresh, otherwise it gets stale.
Very sad. Sad I can't have both.
That is a fabulous question.
When people see that, I hope they'll realize that.
안녕하세요, 로리파츠입니다.
I still have degrees, I swear.
And you're watching Eclectic Arts Media.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts Media, based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me on this Friday, what is today? The 8th of September, 2023. So happy Friday to those that have a regular Monday through Friday week. Today's my Tuesday. And I would like to thank Serena Telly for joining me, that was a few weeks ago. She was just really a joy to talk to. And it sounds like she'll be coming back in October, and you'll have to kind of stay tuned to some of my social media to kind of understand why she's coming back. And sounds like she'll be having some guests with her. So that will be really fun and something I'm looking forward to. So speaking of which, the live streams that I do have coming up next week, I was just telling my guests this backstage, I'm really happy that I can say that I have 3 confirmed live streams coming up instead of like maybe one or maybe none or things that are kind of pending. So I'm really looking forward to this. So next, let me make sure I get the dates right. Next Wednesday, the 13th, Crow Lotus of Capra is going to be coming back. She first joined me, that was 2021. And then I met her last summer. She and the band finally made it up to Seattle from Louisiana for the very first time. So that was awesome, getting a chance to do the whole virtual into reality thing. And then the very next day on Thursday, the 14th, drummer and co-founder Jeremy Randazzo of Capra will be joining me. And of course, I met Jeremy last summer, but I've never done an interview with him. So I think it's going to be really interesting, especially being the co-founder of the band. Tyler, the guitar player, I also had talked to 2 years ago. So they've got a brand new album coming out at the end of this month called Errors. And so that's going to be next week. And then, boy, the one that's coming up on Tuesday, the following week, which I believe is the 19th, if I get my dates right, at 1 p.m. That one's been pending since about May. And it's been one of those things where it came from a documentary film, and it was something that I really loved. It's about music, about a band. And I just got to a point where I was working with a publicist, and she was trying her darndest. I love that publicist. She's been really, really good to me, and just couldn't get things to work to get an interview together. So I said, hey, do you mind if I try reaching out directly? And she said, like, go for it, Mark. And so I did. And it just, the scheduling was just so bad because this particular guest had a bunch of things going on right into summer. And so we were talking about, well, can we maybe do something at the end of summer, or maybe when you have a break with your workshops that you're doing? And so she was ready to do something in July, but it was right in the middle of all of this busyness for her. So I'm like, you know what, why don't we wait till you're done with all of that so you can kind of relax and decompress and be ready to go? I think we'll get a better interview that way. So that is on the schedule. And so if you're familiar with the band Fanny, which you may or may not be, I wasn't when I saw the documentary. I'm like, how does this band existed for so long? And I didn't know who they were. They were the first all-female rock band that was signed to a major label. And they're incredible musicians, and their story is really interesting. And again, they have a documentary film out about their whole journey. And so June Millington is scheduled to join me. So I'm super excited to finally get this, May, June, July, August, almost 5 months of kind of going back and forth trying to get something together. So knock on wood, I didn't just jinx it, but she should be here in about a week from Tuesday. And then there's a couple other ones that might happen at the end of the month. We'll kind of see. I was also telling my guests that I've got a lot of in-person things coming up now from theater and musicals, and the Pacific Northwest Ballet kicks off their new season in about 2 weeks, and just a lot of things. So September will be very busy, but for those of you, if you've never joined me on my YouTube channel, if you could do me a huge favor, please hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell if you'd like to know what I have coming up. And if you're over on the Twitch side, if you could follow me over there, I'd greatly appreciate that. If you want to know what I have detail-wise of like anything related to the media outlet, please follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram. That's where I post everything first, and then some of that information migrates over to other social media platforms. So yeah, again, thank you so much for joining me. If you have questions or comments for any of my guests during this live stream or any of the future ones that I have, please just join YouTube or Twitch, and you can put them right into the chat, and I'll fold them into the conversation as we go. Please be aware that my guests do not see what you're typing. I'm the only one who does. So if we're in the middle of discussing something, I will get to your question. So please just be patient, and so I'm not trying to ignore you or anything like that. Yeah, other than that, let's kind of get going. Let me kind of check something as I see there is something right here. And oh, hey, Ove, good to see you over in Norway, and excellent poster. Oh yeah, you know, these posters were literally over on this, I mean, not on the wall, like on like laying against this wall since I moved into this place, which is almost 2 years ago. So I was looking at them today. I'm like, I should just kind of like move them this way and just kind of see how this goes, just kind of mix things up. I added a few other things on the wall, which you can't even see now because now those are covering them. But anyway, yeah, these are posters I've had for a long time, and both of them are signed. This one's signed by Doug Bradley, who played Pinhead, and this one is not. It's signed by James O'Barr, the creator of The Crow. So they're very near and dear to me, these posters. But, you know, thanks for noticing, and thanks for joining the live stream as always in the chat. All right, let's go. My guests today are two talented independent artists. They both have their own individual music projects and are now collaborating together on new music. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Media virtual studio, 2DCAT and HAEZL. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, friends.
How are both of you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Okay.
Can't complain. It's a Friday.
It's a Friday on a Friday. Yeah.
So for people that are watching this, or maybe if you've been watching my live stream before, I'm not on like a laptop or desktop. So when things come through the private chat, I have to go like this and kind of do all kinds of things.
Oh, is that what you're doing when you do that?
Yeah, because I'm not sitting there. I don't have the ease of just flipping out a keyboard.
That makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah. But no, so it does.
Yeah, because backstage you're always like this, and I'm like, what is he doing?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing this kind of thing right
Yes,
by.
that's exactly what you're doing.
I'm
Like,
like,
he's cleaning it. He must be cleaning it.
Yeah, I'm like, what's going on here? But let's kind of not go back to the beginning, but let's kind of go back to 2DCAT with Johan. How did you meet Nicole, HAEZL, and before we get into all the music and everything, how does this collaboration come together?
So I've been looking for a full-time vocalist since kind of unretiring and coming back into music. And I think it's maybe about a year ago, 8 months ago, so we have a mutual friend of ours, Megan is her name. I used to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with her back whenever I was living in DC, who knows a lot of the DC area musicians. And long story short, me being the introvert that I am, needed to get really drunk to reach out to my friends and say, Megan, please tell me that you know a vocalist who could save me, and you know that I could actually go back to doing live shows and having like a full-time musician again. And then luckily for me, or for the project, Megan responded right away, and I was able to, I think I reached out when I was still drunk then, because I doubt that I would have done it if I wasn't. And then I think you said that you were interested. And then I vaguely recall like the next day waking up, as I usually do, and looking at all the messages that I sent. I'm like, oh shit, well, I guess maybe we found a full-time singer now.
Oh God, I hope she doesn't suck. Hopefully I don't.
No, definitely not. No. And I think I've said before of because I've worked with quite a few session vocalists over the years, and working with you has been one of the easiest and most pleasurable experiences that I've had.
Yay.
I've worked with a lot.
I believe you. I believe you. That's good. Yeah, we definitely have a good flow, like just right off the bat, like the way we communicated and just kind of like the personalities worked, and kind of like we both have the same goals. So things have just really worked out. I agree.
Okay, so I'm curious. So Johan, as you're drunkenly contacting Nicole, Nicole, when you're seeing these messages, were you already kind of were you on board with this, or are you kind of like, what is this? Or
Well, Megan actually reached out to me first and was like, just letting you know, I recommended you to a friend of mine who does like a synthwave music, because he's looking for a vocalist. And she's like, if you can't do it, please suggest someone else. And I was like, oh, but I really want to. That sounds awesome. Because when I first, well, I had a band. Well, I've had many bands, but the last band I had in DC, like we kind of drifted our separate ways. And I was just kind of stuck, and I didn't have a way to like write music, create music. So I started that having that and not having that outlet. I really wanted to find a producer to work with so I could write music for someone who wrote electronic music, because it just seemed easier than having like the whole band situation where it's like, 5 people and you always have to rehearse, and like it was a lot for me then. So I was like, it'd be great to just work with like, a producer. But then I just started producing my own music because I couldn't find one. I was like, where the fuck do I find a producer? Like do I just put on like a Craigslist ad, which would be not a good idea, so it was actually exactly what I was looking for, and why I started writing my music. So now it's perfect, because now I've learned how to produce my own stuff. So I can record, I have a studio, I can record the vocals, I have a decent understanding of how to do some vocal production, and it's just a great fit now. So it's awesome.
wow, so it was almost like it was meant to be then.
I think so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So Johan, when you heard back and Nicole was into the idea and everything, were you guys just exchanging, like doing FaceTimes or like this kind of thing back and forth to kind of talk about ideas or what you wanted from this, or how did this kind of go?
No,
Facebook Messenger, baby. Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, that and Google Drive, like this is what I'm thinking of. And then, so I think the initial, because I'm used to writing songs around acapellas that I receive. So I think it was first understanding how is our workflow going to be. And we've kind of gotten to the point now where I'm just sending instrumentals her way with markings like this is where I envision the verse would come in, and the break and in the chorus, but feel free to, if you don't want to do this, do anything else. And that's been working really well for us, I think. And I also think it's working well just because it's like she is amazing and great at what she does, and I like to think that I'm okay with what I do. So
yeah,
I mean, it's very synergistic, where I think we're both working to our strengths and we're coming back with something that's pretty good. At least that's what I think.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, as soon as Megan sent me, or I think maybe you sent me some links, I was like, oh hell yeah, that sounds so good. Like I was already inspired to write what 2DCAT, the music that he writes, just lends itself to melody so well. So it's literally crack for me. Like he sends me a track and it's just like I can make the art that I need to make, because it just lends itself so well to like, harmonies and melodies and words even, get inspired about what it is. I don't know how much he likes what I write, but
I like it.
Generally it's vague enough. I think it can be interpreted by the beholder. So so far I think we've had some real bangers. I think we've written like 10 songs already. So
yeah, I was looking at that because we were at the point now where I had to reach out to the person who did the last vinyl art to ask about availability for that, since we're getting to the point where it's ready for another future release. And vinyl just takes so long to produce. It's like a 6 to 8 month ordeal. So starting to think that way already. But yeah, definitely, I think early 2024 is when some of my favorites that we've done are going to be coming out, just because I really hate the music industry now and how it's structured, but we're coming into the slow months where yeah, it's kind of like remixes and things like that, unless it's going to get buried in the algorithms.
Gotcha. Not the time. That's another thing. Like, he's amazing with just the marketing and business side of it. So I'm learning a lot too for my own, just like watching, oh, these are things I need to be doing, you know, for my own music and stuff like that, which I just didn't really have the right education on before as a like rock band. Like, we just had a different vibe, you know? So this was exactly what I wanted to be doing. And I'm very, very pleased and very excited for all the rest of the music to come.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting, and it makes me wonder about like those early, like first or two songs. It sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Johan, you had like the music and everything worked up, and then did you just send it over, like you said, where you kind of envisioned things, or was it a little bit different in the earlier days of your collaboration?
So the first song, the original song that we did, well, the first song was a demo. It was a song that we previously did, and I didn't really care much for the session vocalist that I was working with there.
Oh, that's right.
And I was like, I've always hated this song, and I want to revisit it. Could you do something maybe better? It sounded better, so that's going to be one of the ones that's released in 2024 sometime. But actually, the first song that we did was original, was for Polar Shift. And I think it started off where I sent you over an instrumental, and then you came back with what you came back with. And I actually reverted back to I want to write a new, completely different song around this, because I was really inspired by, it reminded me of The Neverending Story. And I'm like, I kind of wanted instrumentals that kind of were more evoking of, I can't remember the guy who
Falcor.
No.
Okay.
the one who it's a weird name. No, he's like
no, that's Dune. Don't tell him I said that.
He's from like South Africa, I think, or Australia. The artist who did the theme song for The Neverending Story.
Gotcha.
He was in his own band, and then he did his solo effort for that. But I was trying to do something that was more evoking of that. So the drum kits that I used for that were the same drum kits that they used in that song. I used the Chroma Polaris that was kind of as similar as I could get to some of the pads that they were using in there as well. So I was trying to evoke as much nostalgia for that movie, which is one of my favorite movies growing up, as I could.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite movies too, actually, as a kid. In like a really weird, sick way. Like, I remember, what was that symbol that they had that was like those snakes? And he found that. You know what I'm talking about? Like the symbol on the book, and that's like what opened the world. And it was those.
Yeah.
Snakes. I had made a clay one, and I like hid it in my yard and made all my friends like look for it. And I remember, like, I was like, "Oh, I found it!" And I like pulled it out, and I was like, "Look, I'm like the special one. Now we're all gonna go on this magical adventure." Like, I loved that movie. I was young.
I saw so many memes relating to that with Burning Man and the rain that happened out there. All the horse related mud scenes were popping up for live footage at Burning Man type memes, and it was like, okay, no. we're back to evoking Neverending Story death scenes.
That does not go away. That does not go away. It was a good movie though. It had the nothing. Like, what an amazing enemy or bad guy for like a just the existential concept is freaking brilliant. And as a kid, you don't understand that this is total nihilism. That you'll understand this as an adult. But now, just looking back at it, I was like, wow, the nothing, that is like the coolest like antagonist I've ever heard of in a movie.
I think we need to write a song about the
Yes,
nothing.
we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we will do that. This is happening. Yeah.
I'm a fan of that.
I'm already seeing such an incredible chemistry between you two.
That's awesome.
Just bantering about the never-ending story. I mean, it's like, wow.
This partnership would have ended long ago if it weren't for putting up with our absurd bantership. I don't even know how many nights go by where I just get like drunk and I listen to, what was the Aha song that I was obsessed with for like 2 weeks straight?
I love, he'll just send me random ass shit and I'm like, cool.
Oh yeah. Like,
but then I'm like, am I singing this? I'm like, because I can sing this.
So I got really obsessed with Aha's Stay on These Roads for like a 2-week span. And it had to have been like 2 weeks, like every night straight. I would just send random messages about this song. No reason. It was just like, I'm really
Yes.
captivated by this. And yeah.
You told me it was your favorite song ever and that you
it's
play
a
it all the
really,
time.
really good song. Yeah. If I really get bored on the TV and I just want something to pick me up, I'll play that. But
So here's the fun thing. So we did our photo shoot. We're gonna talk about the
ah,
and I don't know what it was, what it was,
I
but
forgot
like,
about that.
I was trying to think of like things that we could have at the photo shoot to like kind of break the ice and make it not awkward and like just have something there that we could like take pictures with. So it was, not weird because it's the first time we were meeting too.
Okay.
And they have a motorcycle there. And so I actually, like I was like, well, I'm going to rent the motorcycle. And he was like, I actually sent a picture and he was like, is that because of the Aha video? And I was like, maybe it is. Cause I was like, motorcycle fits, right?
Yeah.
But
So
we did not use the motorcycle.
for those unaware, the music video for Stay on These Roads, it's very, it's about riding bikes. And I should do research to see if they actually do ride, because I don't think they do based on the apparel that I was seeing. And I was really concerned. It's like, we can't do a photo shoot with a motorcycle. I don't ride a motorcycle. I would ride a Vespa, but it's like, I don't ride a motorcycle. Yeah. It's like, I don't think you ride a motorcycle. I don't want to come off as, it's like, why do we have a motorcycle? So we decided
to move the motorcycle, which is a lot harder than you think it is. To get that motorcycle out of the studio, like it took me and the photographer, like trying to get it out. All three of us were like, "Can we just like get this out of the way, like for now?" Because this is this huge like black motorcycle. But you know what? It was a great icebreaker, even if we didn't take photos with it. And it all came from that Aha video. It's like, this will fit our style, right? Let's do the motorcycle.
Well, the motorcycle served its purpose. That
it sure did. It sure did.
Yeah.
It also had something we could like play with the lights with, so it was fine.
Holy moly! So let's kind of go back to the music part of the original music part of this. So you're talking about with the early songs, and like Johan, you said that you got inspired to actually do something different based on what Nicole sent to you, and so that sounds like this process is still like a work in progress. It's still kind of like you're learning each other's styles and what your strengths are, and then you're also probably getting to a point where you can be comfortable enough to like, here's what I got. What do you want to do to it? Because that takes some trust after a while. As musicians, all three of us are musicians here. So, how long did that take you?
It's still going on. I mean, I kind of view music as a continued work in progress. I don't think that I will ever feel as though that I am up to my potential. And I think moments before we conducted this, I've already sent Polar Shift, actually. I sent something back saying, hey, whenever we do vinyl release, these are the re-edits that I want to do to it, because I'm not really too happy with certain segments. So, I mean, I'm always learning. And I don't know if that's the engineer in me, where I could always be better and I want to learn and do better, or if it's just the creative part of me. But I think that we will continuously always be going back and doing tweaks. And I know HAEZL has kind of come back and done tweaks based on things that she's learned on the vocal stuff as well, where things that we thought that were done, we're like, hey, let's revisit this song that's in the queue for a couple months. And we're continuing to kind of refine those things as well, even though we thought that they were done. So is anything ever done? I'm never happy with anything that I really like. I'm happy enough, right, but it could always be better. It's a good marker for where we were in our careers at a certain moment of time. And I think that's the thing that always pains me going back and listening to old music, is it's very hard for me to kind of go back, and I usually go, I could have done this so much better with what I know now. And that's kind of my thoughts on that.
And then you don't want to lose that, like what you like, that song was like, there are babies, like you don't want to lose that, like what it was. You want it to be the best it can. So it's so hard not to go back and want to re-edit, re-change, like, oh, it needs to be better. So yeah, we've kind of been in that process because we've been writing things so fast that we're going back and we're improving so fast as far as like how we work together in each of our like parts. And so we are going back and we are re-editing things and changing things and making them better, especially as our goals and like what we're envisioning for the future is happening as far as like live shows and things like that. So now it's like, oh, time to pump up some of that kick and try to make this a little more danceable is one of our goals right now, and make things a little bit more energetic. So when we start doing our live shows come October 22nd, we have a set that's really engaging. So that's actually even changed some of our previous songs as we kind of rewrite and revamp.
Okay. Well, no, and I mean, Johan, what you're talking about, I mean, that's the artist's curse, right? I mean, I don't think we're ever fully satisfied with what we've done. It's funny because I had just found some demos that I did, like we're talking like analog 4-track demos from way back in the day that I didn't even know I still had. And I'm like, God, these are just like, I hope no one ever hears this. It's so bad.
Oh my God, right?
But there's still a little bit of that nostalgia, that little bit of a quirk. Like I remember back in 1994 when I did this, or where my head was at. But I'm like, yeah, I could do things, 20 times better than what that is. And it's also interesting, like Nicole, what you mentioned about knowing that you have live performances coming up, that now it's kind of shifting what you already did. It's like, well, wait a minute, we have to have our goal is this now. So does this stuff fit this? And no, we need to kind of tweak it a little bit more to meet the vision that you both have. Right. So it sounds really like you have a really tight partnership developing here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And very prolific kind of right off the bat. I mean, I'm going to assume at some point, I don't know. You are so prolific. He writes so much music. Like, he's constantly throwing music into the G drive. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I want to do all these. Like, this is amazing. I'm not that prolific, even though I am. Like, I write so much music. So he's like 10 times more prolific than I am. So we're going to have tons of music because it won't stop between him and I. We got a lot to say, okay?
Yeah. So I will say the engineer part of me that like and I think this also kind of ties back to why I got so good at marketing as well, is just like some of the way that I go into and the thought process and stuff. Or we have a very stringent, for me in my head, 6-week release schedule that we need to stick to. And I try, and in my head, I would like to have stuff going out a year in advance, where if I want to just, I'm not inspired for 6 months, or I want to do something different, or we go on tour for 3 months, that we have enough of a buffer where I never feel pressured where I want to meet this release that's coming out in this time frame. I have 2 weeks to do it, and then I'm going to put out something that I don't necessarily like. So during the moments where I am feeling inspired, I just kind of put my head down, pull out a bottle of whatever, and just kind of go on town and just get as much as I can done while I could do it.
Sounds exciting. I have such a weird like relationship if I'm drinking and creating, because the next morning I'm usually like have a very negative view of what I did, even if it's not like bad, but because it was like, I don't know. Like I would love to just like have a drink and write. But one thing you said to me that was really smart, I thought, was like that the mixing and like the engineering of the song was not to be done under any sort of influence. Like that was when you step aside and you really focus with that left brain and, do the technical stuff. Cause you're right. If the creative, sometimes that really helps it and just makes it really, really easy to come out. Kind of like language, when you're drinking, you can speak another language way better than you can if you're sober. Music's kind of the same way. It kind of brings out that part of your brain. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to write you some drunken lyrics sometime.
Sure. They'll be entertaining.
Maybe some more Batman stuff. I don't know.
Good old Batman song.
Good old Batman song.
Batman songs are our greatest song that no one will have any idea what the Batman song is.
We're not telling which one. They're going to have to figure it out. That'll be the question. Which one is the Batman song, everybody?
You already have contests and everything.
Oh yeah, that's actually.
Oh,
I'm sending everyone out there now. Go figure out which HAEZL 2DCAT song is the Batman song, and I'll give you a T-shirt.
There you go, everybody.
an exciting offer.
And some social media shout outs. How about that?
Johan, you'd mentioned like in your head about, and you didn't know if this was the engineer side of you, about having certain release timelines of how you want to do things. Was that something that you developed over time in your music career then in general, that you kind of from the beginning, in the early days, where you kind of figured out how you want things, or we kind of always been like that?
It's kind of unfortunately the way that the music industry has gone. So the music industry is, to no one's surprise, largely driven by Spotify. And it's one of the areas where doing anything more than a 4-week release schedule, your music is going to get lost into the algorithms and it just won't be seen by anyone. It's why doing a full release of 12 songs where each of them is a brand new song. One of those songs that you kind of submit forth to release radar is going to get a decent push. 3 to 4 other songs will get a very minor push, and the rest of them are just going to kind of go into the void. So it's one of those things where you're trying to get your song to as many listeners as possible, or to your largest audience. And it's always a considerable challenge in doing that, just kind of due to a lot of the gatekeeping that's done. I think in Spotify, I think we have around 23,000 listeners now. And then even for the release radar for that, it's still only going out to, I think Spotify, based on the polls that I was seeing, they only push out to around 5% of what your follower base is. So there's still advantages of growing your follower account, because that will continue to, like, that 5% will continue to grow. But it's one of those things where, I don't know, nothing makes sense. I don't like any of it, but it's one of the worlds that we have to live in now. I would love to go back to 1999 where we could just release, a 12 song CD/vinyl and then just kind of go back into the studio for 2 years, but that's unfortunately not the world we live in anymore.
No. I've had, and I, with my own music too, I've had people like ask, like, why don't you do an album? I'm like, it's not about that. Like, you got single, like, throw out those singles as much as you can. So yeah, it is different game. And then you combine them into an album. It's really what's going on.
Yeah, and that's kind of the schedule that we do, is single, and then once there are 10 to 12 songs, enough for a vinyl release, do edits of each of those, and then just do like the vinyl edit of what would be that final release there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, what you guys have said is exactly what I've been hearing from pretty much, I should say, most of the music artists that I've interviewed, especially the ones that have been around for a while. They're kind of like, this is what it used to be like. I wish it was still like that, but unfortunately, it's this whole thing. Everything, the game's totally changed, and I don't really know too many people that like it. And unless you're like brand new and you just don't know any better, just like if you're 18 or something, I think this is the way it is. But even for myself, I get lost in albums. I don't get lost in singles. I don't listen to Spotify. I'm one of the few people that doesn't use that platform at all. So but that also means I'm missing out on things because people want me to listen to stuff. That's where they send me. They don't send me like, well, Mark, here's some other kind of way to check out my stuff. It's always go here. I'm like, well, shit, I don't really, out of principle, I don't really use that. So is there some other way I can check out your stuff? Are you gonna be playing live somewhere? Do you have any plans to do a physical release, that kind of thing? So I realize I'm a dinosaur, and I'm kind of hurting myself by having that mentality. But I kind of hang on to it as much as I can when I can. Sometimes I just can't. So I'll have to go online and actually listen to something. Okay, here's what this is, and now I can do the interview properly.
Right. It took me a long time to accept Spotify because it wasn't entirely intuitive to me at first. And then you have to pay to not have it just play random shit. So I was like, oh, I hate you. I have iTunes. Like, I hate you. But then I realized it really is, it's what everyone kind of listens to things right now. That'll change. But yeah, so I definitely took the plunge into Spotify, and we're even I have not modified the new playlist, which I should do. Need to update that. But yeah, so We're Spotify
So-
folks.
Yeah, I mean, our stuff is everywhere. It's just I tend to focus on or talk about Spotify, if only because of all the closed gardens that everyone is forced to work in, it has the most retargeting options and,
Yeah.
and the best algorithmic abilities to get our music out to even more audiences than what just pure advertising would do. So it's not great. You don't really see much initial return on investment, but it's better than if we were going to like sending directly to Bandcamp or to Apple Music for say.
There's a guy that I work with at my Muggle job, and he's been doing, I don't know, he's been doing like his hip hop for maybe like 3 years, and he was trying to explain to me, kind of like what you were just explaining to me, all the little nuances of all the business side of things that he's had to learn about these platforms, and it was just making my head spin. I mean, there's so many things that he had to figure out.
It's so much.
Yeah, and he's probably like 26, 27, and
Yeah.
he was talking to me thinking that I'm still putting out music. I said, no, I interview musicians. I go see concerts. I haven't been doing my own music at all, but he's trying to help me out. I said, okay. I don't know if he's watching right now, but anyway, it was kind of eye-opening to hear how much homework he had done into that algorithm. I mean, every little breakdown about those platforms, so that he can keep getting more and more music to the masses, basically. So, wow, here I go.
Squeaky, 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 squeak.
Yeah, I will say, as an engineer who has done quite a bit of reverse engineering, at least on the hardware side of the house, looking at what Spotify makes available via the API and making logical assumptions where if I was making an algorithm that was going to do X, Y, and Z, what are some of the metrics that they're looking for that they aren't giving to us has really driven me in a lot of the advertising and marketing methods that I do. So that is one of the things that I pride myself in as an engineer that I think has helped me with how I'm at least doing the business side of music marketing.
Yeah. And it's fascinating. I've always loved that. I mean, a lot of people fight social media. The only thing I don't like about social media is just the constancy, because you just have to keep, we're creative people. Like, we can't always force it out, like it's part of the ebb and flow of life. And that's why people, gravitate towards art. It's because it represents that ebb and flow of life. So that being said, a creative person doesn't always have everything there all the time. Like, we need that catch and release kind of vibe. So that is counterintuitive towards a creative person, although creative people oftentimes love to express themselves within social media. But it is kind of like, I mean, I was looking at jobs in general of like, oh, what would I do if I wasn't, a singer in the military, which is what I do. What would I was like, what about a digital marketer, social media manager? Because that fascinates me. And I do it constantly for my own art and my own work. And I've been doing it since MySpace, like and most of the people who said it was hell. They were like, it's hell. It's constant. Like, social media managers just like, I'm trapped. I'm trapped in like cyber world and can't get out, was most of Reddit. Which is like, oh, that's not good, but I understand, because it does feel very claustrophobic sometimes, having to learn everything and do stuff all the time, constantly put out this, that, learn that, blah, blah, blah. And then having to be creative on top of it just feels inorganic, which is unfortunate, but we got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say that the social media manager for the place or the company that I work for, she just left. Yeah, it was driving her nuts. Just like she's in this bubble or this maze that she can't get out of.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know, maybe 30, and she was like, there's got to be more to life than me doing this for this company.
Right.
So no, it's how you explained it, Nicole. That and you and I have talked about the social media thing too. That whole game of like, you feel this thing back here is like, hey, have you posted anything recently? What day is it? What time is it?
Yeah.
What are you posting? Are you putting a reel? Are you putting a still picture? What are you doing here?
Yeah.
And what's your engagement like? And then you have impressions and all these other kind of things that they keep adding more and more things to the platforms. So you start, if you're getting to analytics, you start looking at it like, oh, so why did this one get 500 more than that one?
Yeah.
And start breaking it down. Next thing you know, you just spent 6 hours looking through stuff,
Yeah.
and you haven't really created anything.
Right. Or are you sure about any of the impact you made? It's there kind of, but like, what does it actually mean? I don't know. Maybe a degree in that would tell you, but gosh, I love it and hate it at the same time. I think it's awesome. I think it's the future. Obviously it's going to change, but it's also definitely a burden on some of us creative folks that we have to keep people engaged. And oftentimes it's like I want to put some of this energy to the music too, but I decide on my weekends, is this a day for photos and social media, or is this a day for writing music? I have to decide, because if I spend 4 hours, setting up my lights and taking photos and stuff, like I'm not going to go upstairs and start working in the studio usually. So
Yeah, see I just met up with a friend that I hadn't seen in quite a few years, and she didn't know anything about the media outlet at all, even though it started back in 2011. So I mean, I knew her way before then, and then she's not on social media. So when I was trying to explain how this is like, sometimes it drives me nuts, and sometimes it's been really wonderful, and I've met so many interesting people because of it. She was like, so what were you doing initially with this? So I had to go through the whole story, from the fanzine days to where I really wasn't doing anything, to then when I was, photography, and then the interviews and all this other stuff. And it was just kind of weird to be able to talk about it for, what I've done in the last 12 or 13 years. And then she's still kind of like, so it's amazing that you're to where you're at now. And that's like, yeah, but I also feel this pressure that and I can't really get rid of it. Even if I like don't post anything for like a week, and just kind of, just live my life off social media.
right.
When people say, I'm going to take a break from social media, I don't ever do that. I just do it. I'm just gone. But I also know in the back of my head, especially from a business standpoint, this could be hurting me, that I'm choosing to just like, I'm not going to do this. But I guess my point was that when you're talking about either I'm going to do a photo shoot or I'm going to work on music on a weekend, that's what I was like when I was doing my music duo around town, doing model shoots for photography, and then doing some writing. Like, I can't do all three. It's finite for me. So I have to pick one, and then there's other things I'd also do to kind of keep me fueled, and it's not necessarily all three of these things.
Right.
So yeah, balance.
It is all about that balance. Yep.
Yeah.
All about that balance.
That's why I like to work very far in advance. It's like for my social media posts, I think I'm also 5 months in advance of things where if I don't have anything to post, then this is automatically going to get posted, so I don't have to worry about it.
Wait, how are you getting something that does 5 months in advance? Mine will only do like a month. I use Meta Business, and it's like a month.
Oh, I just use Preview is kind of what I've been using, which is almost infinite.
Yeah, I have to look into that. Can you post to like everything from there?
No, it's just Instagram focused, I believe.
You know what annoys me about Meta Business for Instagram too is like if I'm using it to do a future post, I can't add music.
Yeah, that's the thing
like
that
super limited. Yeah.
You can't do that with Preview as well. That's the reason why
Yeah.
it's a backup. When
Right.
oftentimes I'll just post what I was going to post there, but I just manually go in just because I can't associate it with a song, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I'll set everything up through Facebook, and then I'll just copy and paste into everything else so I can add the music and the tags and stuff like that and make sure everything goes well. I mean, I get why people are hired to do it, because it's time consuming, and oftentimes I'm doing it on my way to work, and I shouldn't be doing that. Don't tell anyone.
I would legitimately argue that music marketing is closer to 70% of everything that I do in the realm of music, and 30% of it's actually music these days.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just the way it is.
Yeah. One thing I'm really grateful for, though, is to be opened into this like synthwave like world that's like this underground like group of people that I'm just like all of a sudden I'm able to like communicate with and connect with. And he's shaking his head, but I'm like, that's cool. Like there wasn't this for it was too broad of a genre when I was in the metal bands, and then the indie prog band I was in was a little too narrow. But this has like not a cult following. Is it a cult?
I don't
Is it-
even know what
oh.
synthwave is these days. Synthwave, like the term in the scene frustrates me more than it brings me joy these days.
Okay. Okay.
So the thing that like so I like working within restrictions, and I don't know if that's again the engineer in me or not, but I've generally, whenever I write music, I tend to like working with equipment that existed prior to 1987, and it's just a restriction that I like to place on myself, with the exception of a DAW. I have done a lot of retrofits to a lot of the analog equipment to make it like to jerry rig it to work, which is another reason why I like doing music. But it to me, like synthwave, at least to me, was kind of that time period from like 1980 or like 1978-ish to 1987, like evoking the memories of electronic synth pop nostalgia. I see the preponderance of synthwave these days is it has a very, it's like a fake nostalgia, if that makes sense. It's very digital and cold in sounding, and it's nothing that really actually evokes any type of nostalgia for me from an actual synth or like EEPROM based drum kit perspective. It's almost like fake nostalgia. What's the term for fake nostalgia? I can't remember. There's a term for it, but fake nostalgia is kind of what I would associate with 80% of synthwave now. So I've actually kind of gone to just saying we do retro synth pop now, because one, it's just synthwave is, it seems like it is so oversaturated, one, and then two, it is oversaturated with so much fake nostalgia that it's kind of like, I actually do things with vintage EEPROM based drum kits and synths, and that's kind of what makes 2DCAT in terms of what we do for nostalgic purposes. And I would rather call ourselves retro synth pop than synthwave these days. But there's cool people.
Yeah, no, that's very, very cool and very true. Yeah. It's yeah, I love that there's that retro aspect and that you have the education behind it and the knowledge behind it to make it like authentic. I know what you're saying. Like, what is the word for that? For a fake nostalgia? Like, I see what you're saying. It'll come to me.
I remember the term. I used it like 4 days ago. I was having the same conversation with somebody, and they mentioned the word to me. I'm like, yes, that is literally what synthwave is these days. It's just like, I don't know.
It's something else. Like, might as well change the name now, kind of thing.
It is, and it's even from like a visual standpoint. It just, everything is the same. So it's like in terms of palette, or the color palettes, and in terms of a lot of the symbolism that's used, everyone sticks with literally the same visual motifs across all of their albums as well, where it kind of, everything just kind of also gets lost and it all looks the samey. So it's kind of, again, I kind of find myself wanting to revisit, what is it that we actually do? Do I actually want to be associated with this fake nostalgia, or do I just want to embrace more of the actual early 80s synth pop bands that actually inspired me, and just kind of go retro synth pop?
Well,
circling back to AHA.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And like, I remember when we were talking about like vocal styles too, like it's interesting because I sing a ton of styles. Like, I sing a lot of styles. I've experienced in multiple genres and bands and blah blah blah. But it was like keying into what exactly the sound was you needed. And a lot of times I won't say I'm intimidated by a pop sound, but sometimes I don't think my voice is rough enough to sound like some of like the newer pop singers, because I do have a very polished sound because I'm a trained singer, and I have to kind of fake a sort of like roughness to get that, like, what is it now that they say the singer sound like a walrus, like what? I mean, I've actually sat in my studio trying to fucking do that because I'm like, why do I not sound like a walrus? What? I mean, I can't fucking pull it off. So I was very concerned that like you wouldn't like my sound because it does have a more pure sound. But then when you sent that AHA track, I was like, yes, because that is a supported, clean vocal pop sound, and I can do that. And I can rough it up if I need to a little bit, but I'll never be a walrus. I'll never be a I don't know, as Billie Eilish even kind of got that she's not quite walrusy enough. No, she's got a pretty decent, clean sound. But yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Where it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh. I mean, I wish I could do that, but I just can't. I
Do
don't.
you?
I do
I mean,
because I want to do it all, and I want to be like, I can do that too, but like I can't because I don't know. It's just really a weird sound.
I mean, I could write standard synthwave music, but it would just be so boring and dull and lifeless to me that I don't know. I like that and for yourself as well. I like that we're both unapologetically ourselves in our music. And
Right. And it reaches
it
people
is-
when it's honest, you know, and when it's good and it's honest. I think it reaches people, you know, but like even I don't know, it's taken me a long time to like kind of deconstruct my opera training too. Like starting from my metal band in like 2010, you know, I've been working towards deconstructing my education really so I can create a sound that is now HAEZL. But it's still not the walrus. It's still
Don't
not
ever
the
be a
bear.
walrus.
I know, but man, they're popular these days. People love them. They love them.
I'm picturing like when you guys have like if you do something where you have like I don't know a
Cat
blue
versus walrus.
like
Cat versus walrus.
I'm picturing like a Blu-ray release with like the special features. There's all this behind the scenes shit, and there's a bunch of it's like nothing. There's no story, just random snippets of vignettes of things, from conversations to Nicole doing walrus sounds or singing or
Me being passed out in an elevator.
yeah. There we go.
No, the elevator. Oh my god. You didn't pass out during that.
No,
Oh god.
I would envision that would be one of the
Right?
behind the
Like
scenes.
that's where that story ended, really. Like these are the B endings to our lives, right? I end up a walrus. That elevator was like you passed out. Like this is the B sides. What actually happened, right? Ooh, that's good. I think we're onto something there.
It can make a real interesting music video.
Yeah. All the B sides. What would have happened? What could have happened?
Well, let's kind of go back to since your target is that you have now you've been doing these singles and like you've been mentioning that eventually be doing re-edits, putting them together for an album release most likely next year. But you've got this front and center with this live performance coming up in October. So how's that going to be different? Not only about just what you're doing with the songs, but then the whole performance part. I mean, like Johan, in your case, I don't know your background. Are you used to being on stage and performing, or how's that kind of work for you? And then I kind of know Nicole's background on stage.
I am very used to being on stage. Like 2 weeks ago, for my professional life, I was at a conference speaking at 3,000 people. So that's very routine for me to be in front of thousands of people. I just don't care. It's kind of, I'm an introvert, but for whatever reason, I'm on stage and I could throw on that I am an actor and I pretend that I am sociable. So stage presence has never been an issue for me, whether it's playing live music or just speaking in front of large audiences. It's something that I wish we were doing more of. It is actually very, very difficult to get live shows these days. We're almost in a chicken and a hen situation where we can't really use past performances from other bands to say, hey, I could get in front of thousands of people and not shit my pants. Why can't you give me a show for 100 people? They go, nope, we want to see 2DCAT play live and across multiple videos before we give you a show. So we're kind of in a weird set right now where I think we would have rather been playing live before this, and we would rather have more live shows on our horizon. But it's one of those things where we have to struggle through for another year or so, maybe.
Probably.
But,
I mean, we're gonna get some show. We're gonna do shows. We're starting on October 22nd. We're gonna get some shows. We're gonna get some film. We need to get someone to film it. Here is my advice to all you friends of musicians out there. Please be the person that brings a tripod and is willing to hit record on something because we love you. because it's so hard to find people to record things, especially if it's not like a shaky camera. So if you've got some skills and have some musician friends or not a show, that's just my PSA. But for us, we'll definitely have some folks out there videoing and stuff, and we'll get a few shows under our belt. And then once that happens, we'll put that into the rest of our packet, which is already, 10 songs, like an album worth of music already. So it's going to be great. We're going to get some big shows, at least in the next couple of years, no doubt.
Okay, and help me understand this. Is there a third member of the band?
So Ulf, he was working right now, plays guitar for us as well. He's Swedish Ulf. He's from Sweden. I call him Swedish Ulf. He's also part of the band. He doesn't play guitar in all of the songs, but yes, he will be joining us live for that as well. And he does play guitar for us occasionally. Who I don't think you've actually met Ulf yet.
I have not met Ulf, and he did not respond to our Facebook message, so he needs to say hi.
He's an enigma.
That's okay. That's good. That's good. Most of us should be. I don't know.
I was actually. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was Midnight Danger is another synthwave band from Sweden. He's coming through SF in a couple weeks, and I was chatting with him. He actually lives Ulf grew up in Eskilstuna, which is outside of Stockholm, and they both kind of live near each other, like 10 minutes away from each other, which I thought was really weird.
That's really weird.
Yeah, he lived on the next stop going into Stockholm, and yeah.
That's so weird.
We were talking about places to find Swedish delicacies in the city.
What's a Swedish delicacy? I would like to know what a Swedish delicacy is.
Cannibal, which is like the Cinnabon. So in SF, there's a really great place that does it's kind of we're mostly French focused with croissants and stuff, but there's this one place that does a combination of a Cinnabon and a croissant, and it's a life-changing experience, but it's a long line. But he was going to have the venue go out and obtain some for him. So I think I did my civic duty.
Oh, did you? Oh, that's amazing.
I think so. Anytime I see a friendly face, I see a friendly face come in, and I try and say hi and offer to show him cool things or whatever.
Cinnabon?
Yeah.
A bun, monsieur?
One thing that came to mind when you're talking about the live performances and how you kind of see things going, there's got to be at some point where you guys are going to be crossing paths with Alice. I would think. Yes. I mean, obviously, Nicole.
It's so weird. There's like mutual, there was no connection with us finding each other to Alice. And then it was like, there's these mutual fans too, like between 2DCAT and Alice. And he was like, there's some fans of mine that are fans of theirs. So I was like, I know them very well. So actually we've been trying, we just, opened the lines of dialogue to try to do a show together. So, I mean, we're just starting off. So we're finding our way. We're trying to figure out some connections. It would be a goal to find a location and some other maybe synthy type bands and put together a show out here in DC when Alice is out here in DC next year. That would be a great goal. But yeah, no, we're talking, and I'm sure it'll happen because it's a good fit, and we're all friends and we have mutual fans and stuff. So it's another one of those weird
It was really, I remember when they first came up. So I have access to a bunch of unpublished Spotify stuff where I'm able to see stuff that a lot of folks aren't able to see. And one of the things that I was seeing was a band, Alice. And I remember listening and going, it's like, they're not necessarily retro synth pop focused. And I was kind of confused as to why there were so many mutual fans between us. And I think that was one of the reasons why they stuck in my head. And I remember talking to HAEZL about this, I think when we were in DC. She was like, hey, do you know Alice? And I was like, I know of them. It's like, we have quite a few mutual fans. And she's like, oh, well, I know the one singer from my days in LA, I think is what you were saying.
Yeah, Tosh and Scott. Scott's mixed and mastered some of HAEZL of my music. So it's a weird crossover.
Yeah. those connections. And then, as Nicole knows, I mean, my connection to her came through them. And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah, and
And they're amazing. Like, I think I mean, I don't go to live shows. I am a live performer in general. And I just, when it's your work, like whatever your work is, you try to avoid it when you aren't working. And that includes musicians. Like, oftentimes, like when we're doing this like daily and we do shows at night, like on the weekends, we don't necessarily want to go out to shows. But I will say, like, the times I've gone, the only people I've ever really go out to see is Alice, because they're my friends. And I have a kid's book with Tosh. I did illustrations for her children's book. And man, I love it. It's great. They are incredible. They are so great to watch live. And they've been so inspirational to see like what it is to capture an audience, what it is to relate to an audience, because a lot of their music like engages them. They've got acts where like people are playing drums out in the audience together and stuff like that. And they're just such a fun show, and great people, and just have a great community of artists that they love to incorporate into their acts and their life. And no, we'd be stoked if we got to play with them. So hopefully that'll be in the future.
And Nicole, are you open to performing live on this coast instead of
Oh
doing
yeah.
it? Okay.
Oh yeah, totally. So like I just had a surgery and I had some complications, so I'm not flying out anytime soon, but hopefully it'll happen. I mean, my parents are out there, so I got to see them at some point, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I would hope so. I was just thinking about, I know how they tend, like Alice tends to do spring, summer, fall. So depending on where they're at, it might, and then with 2DCAT being in SF, then maybe you'd be coming out this way to do that
Right.
show.
Oh, that's a good idea too. Yeah, that's a good idea. I didn't even think of that. We were kind of just thinking next time they're out here, we'll try to see like, hey, let's do a show. But you're right. Like we could probably do a show out there too, since they are out there. What if we went to LA and we saw my friends?
All kinds of possibilities.
Oh, I want to see all my friends. Oh, I used to have a lot of friends. Hello, friends who are out there still. I miss you.
So as we kind of get close to wrapping this up, anybody that's in the chat, and Ove, I know you're still in the chat. If you have any questions for HAEZL or 2DCAT, please put them in before we kind of wrap this up. What is coming up in the what is that sound of? Just heard some kind of weird knocking thing on my window. What's coming up in the near future for the project?
So on the 22nd of this month, Leather Strip, a pioneer in electro-industrial music, EBM music, is doing a remix for us for Data Fusion. They're actually going to be in SF at the Folsom Street Fair 2 days later, which I'll get to see. So that's on the immediate horizon. Is a really, really, really good remix from them. We were kind of talking about early 80s songs, and it definitely has a 81 to 84 Depeche Mode-ish vibe to it.
It's got a Depeche Mode vibe. It's very cool.
And then 6 weeks after that is, I think we're releasing Sparks, as that's finally coming out.
Oh, good.
And then we also did a charity project for the Trevor Project.
I forgot about this.
Yeah, our electronic jazz song that's going to be coming out sometime within like the 6 to 8 weeks mark. I think. I know some of the other musicians. I don't think they've announced them, so I don't want to say who they are. But I don't think that they were planning on putting that out on streaming. So if they don't, then we are going to put that out in the December timeframe ish. And then also anything that would get from that would also go back to the Trevor Project as well. And that kind of concludes where we're at from the rest of the year. And then live playing at the Passenger in DC, one of our favorite DC bars. That is on October 22nd as well. And then we also might have a show the day before as well. That's still TBD. Hopefully he'll be back on that in the next 10 days or so. That's kind of, I think, what we're looking at in the immediate next weeks to months.
We should talk about the jazz song.
The jazz
I know
song.
we're running out of time, but that was really an adventure.
It was an adventure.
So, Mark, we had a request. We did a podcast over. You have to remind me. Sorry.
It was with
With
State of
Jules.
Synth. Yeah.
State of Synth. Thank you, State of
Yeah,
Synth.
with
Yeah,
Neon Fox.
with Neon with Jules, Neon Fox.
Yeah.
And
that-
oh my gosh, loved it. It was so great. I don't know who requested us to do a jazz piece.
it was Joel's. Yeah.
Oh, it was Jules. Okay.
Yeah. And the co-host too. I
Okay.
cannot remember his name right now.
That's what I was trying to think
really
of.
terrible.
Yeah.
I would have to
Anyways,
come up-
yeah, we have to. I don't. Yeah, but Jules is great, and also I bought his shirt, and that's on social media right now. Very nice shirt. Happy to support because the State of Synth is awesome. But they did kind of commission us to do this jazz piece. There was a little miscommunication about what jazz means. So, like, from my classical background, like I have done a lot of legitimate jazz. You know, we've done like people with doctorates in like jazz music, like, and what we call it is scat, you know, like, and I have done like master classes in this. And so, so when they said jazz, I mean, also, I want to say Johann wrote like a very jazzy piece as well. So I was like, oh, we're leaning into this. He sent me this thing and it was so jazzy and it had all these like ninth chords and like jazzy stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm going into this hardcore. Like, this is going to be jazz, right?
we both failed.
We both failed miserably. We sent it to them.
So remember when we were talking about fake nostalgia? They were like, hey, we want to do jazz music, but it's electronic and like synthwave inspired. It's like, hey, we want to have fake jazz music. It's pretty much like we want to have synthwave, but with
saxophone.
Yeah, was kind of what they're looking for. So it was like,
I had to look it up. I had to be like, what is synthwave jazz after the fact? Because he was like, we want a jazz piece. And I was like, wow, this is going to be really hard with our mediums, you know, like with like electronic music, we're going to make a real, because they wanted it live jazz too. So on top of that, it's like, that triggers my brain to like, oh, hello, this is HAEZL and welcome to Jazz Night and blah, blah, blah. I even said that in the recording. I'm like, and they were like, can you do less of the bebopping?
I had to put at least 50. So there's a local jazz club near me, and I did modeling of the entire jazz club. I had to put 50 hours worth of engineering experience into doing like actual modeling because they wanted it to sound live as well. And I guess to them they're like, oh, we'll just put some crowd clapping over top of it. And to me, I heard that this is like a really cool, the reason I wanted to do this was it was like an interesting engineering challenge is, can I make something sound like it was in a live environment, but it was studio recorded? So I went through the entire process of how do I do the modeling of literally everything, going down to a crowd reacting to an individual solo or a flare, like having like AI-based reactions to that, to doing modeling of the speakers that they're using and the placement of the speakers in the club, to the microphones that they were using in there, to the reverb. And I mean, it was so much work. And I think I remember the feedback was like, yeah, this sounds too live. It's like no one else is going to be able to do this. And it was like, oh, well, because I just did a lot of work for no reason. It was a lot of fun though. I had so much fun doing it though. It was like one of those
I did
weird,
too.
like,
I literally sent you this and I was like, this was the most fun I've had. I hate it because I hate jazz. But
same.
I was like, I didn't even tell him that. I was like, after he was like, oh, they don't like it. This isn't what they wanted. They don't want actual jazz. I was like, okay, good, because I fucking hate jazz. But we literally went so hardcore on that authenticity.
So we have a jazzy like song.
We have a jazzy too. It's the jazz cat.
It's still so much. It's from what I've heard from the other submissions, which have been kind of limited. We are so much more jazzy, and I kind of feel bad, and I wish I could go back in time and just go like, I could have found someone who played like I actually used to play Barry sax like way back in like my sister played
Barry
it for a
sax is
while.
so cool.
And then in Tokyo, whenever I was there, I was like, there wasn't a tuba around. I grew up playing tuba. I was like, this is also obnoxious and large, and my sister played it, and she can't be better than me, so I'll try and learn this. So I was like, I mean, in retrospect, I could have just got like a baritone sax and gone to town on that.
And that's it, just a solo, and our normal music would have been exactly what they were looking for.
Yeah.
But we were like,
Could've
we're
done
gonna
an
make this
8-bar
like
solo.
live jazz. We're in a live, like smoky, like, you know, room where people are drinking martinis, and like I'm at the mic, and like he's like synthing, but it doesn't really sound like synth. I mean, we really tried to make it authentic jazz. But you know what's so funny is like it's almost like they figure. First of all, I kind of feel like part of us is like, we missed out on some information that other people don't have, but also like they assumed that we were like at here shallow wise in our capability when really we're down here like with depth of our capability, and they didn't realize how much we can actually do as far as like, you want jazz, here's some fucking jazz, bro.
You want it to sound live, it will 100% sound
right,
like
you
it
want
is
some
live.
live ass jazz, here you go. Between the two of us, you got the best of it, you know. So like they assumed we were here, and what we brought here, it wasn't what they were looking for, unfortunately. But this is why it's so subjective too, you know.
Well, all I can say is both of you make me want to hear this song in the worst possible way.
You got to hear the Jazz Cat song, Jazz Cat.
It's a great, I mean, I haven't listened it since we did it, since I was so sad with the feedback that we got.
Oh my
I think
God.
it's a good song still. Maybe I'll listen
I
to it
rewrote
today.
the lyrics though. I rewrote the whole melody. I rewrote everything.
It's a good song. You should check it. I mean,
yeah.
it's beneficial to the Trevor project.
Right.
So that's also a good thing, which I'm very happy for as well. So definitely check it out for the music, but also do it because you're contributing to the Trevor project.
Right. That was the idea. Yeah. That, of course, like obviously we want to make sure it fits in the whole what they're doing and the messaging and whatnot. So
All right. And actually, I guess I should just put this here for Nicole.
oh, hey friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, 2DCAT, HAEZL, sounds like you're off to the races, basically. I mean, you have so many different things going on. Your synergy's working. You've got like you're both working on music constantly. It sounds like things are just moving forward, and that's really, really exciting. I hopefully at some point, like you said, when you're doing the live performances in October, that we get to see some of this footage. You know, at some point once you're ready to release whatever version of it that you do. Let alone with the music and everything else that you have going on. So no, I really appreciate you taking the time, and it's been one of the easiest interviews for me because I barely said anything.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I love that because I'd rather have that than like someone who says, "No, Mark, I don't want to do that," and then I got to keep talking and come up with stuff like because that's happened in person, not so much live stream, but I've definitely had some people that gave me a couple word answers. I'm like, oh shit, this is going to take forever.
That's the worst. You're like, you just have to be super probing, right? You know, like, what does that actually mean?
It's rough when you have that person like right next to you, and you can kind of tell if their vibe is, I don't really want to be doing this. So then why are you doing it? That's always my question. It's like
right.
you don't have to be doing this. And I'm thinking of one person in particular who I won't mention.
Aren't we all? I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
But no, it's been a pleasure talking with both of you, and yeah, let's reconvene when things are kind of new stuff coming out. Let's kind of get back together and do part 2 if you're up for it.
Yeah,
sure.
That'd be great. Always, Mark.
Always up for a chat.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, everybody.
We should do a fun table is what we should do.
Well, we'll see. That's those things are so challenging for me. I thought I had one in the bag, and it started going. Psst. So
okay, that's right. Okay,
we'll see. But everyone that's watching, because I see there are people watching, and Ove, thank you again for tuning in over in Norway. And everybody else, have a great day, night, afternoon, wherever you are, and we'll catch you later. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.